Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the InspireViews series. My name is Cherrise Boucher, and I'm a transformational life mentor. And a little bit about this series. I felt really inspired to put this InspireViews series together because I feel it's so massively important for every single person out there to incorporate something they are passionate about into their lives. Because when you do that, you really find that it affects you on so many levels. Stress is reduced, relationships improve, communication improves, and you often find that you just feel better overall. So the inspiring people that I want to introduce to you in this series are just like you. They've overcome obstacles, they've experienced life in all its aspects, and they've incorporated their passions into their lives. They're going to share some insights and tips they've found most useful to them throughout their lives that have helped them to get to where they are now. So I'm really glad that you're joining us on this journey to nurture the spark that feeds the fire of your passion. And today I'm excited to introduce you to a heart-centered channel who offers intuitive reading, coaching, and teaches amazing people how to communicate with their spirit guides and open up to their inner guidance. She works both online and in live retreats worldwide. And this beautiful woman's warmth and joy-filled energy comes across so clearly. Her gifts help so many overcome blocks and challenges in their lives in order to truly step into their highest power. She lives with her family in the French countryside, which just gives me images of like postcards. And she loves spending time in nature, playing with her kids, and hugging trees. I don't know who doesn't love to do that. And so I'm thrilled and honored to introduce you to Karina Ladet of karinaladet.com. Hey, Karina.
Hi, Cherrise. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
You are welcome. I really do. Whenever I think countryside, French countryside, you get these little images of what that would look like. Just like when I tell people that I'm from the coast of Maine, and they get probably the lighthouse images with the rocky shores.
Yeah, and it really is lovely where I live. Like there are a lot of postcard places yeah, definitely like the old stone houses and the kids running in the grass and very like colorful and the mountains and all that. So yeah, it's a really beautiful place.
Yeah, beautiful. And now I live in North Florida, and people think it's really warm here, but today we had a record low of 28 this morning, so that's why I'm bundled up. I feel like I should.
You dress more warmly than I am actually today, right?
That's good. I feel like colder, when you're not used to it anymore, then it feels colder than it is, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would love for you to tell us all a bit about your journey that led you to becoming an intuitive coach and all that doing what you do now encompasses. How did you get to where you are now?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. Well, it's kind of funny because when I look back at my life, because I grew up in Sweden, and I spent most of my young years like out in the countryside. I always loved being out in nature, and I grew up in a kind of pretty wild place, so not a lot of people around. And I was always really interested. But actually, it was funny because when I was a kid and growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. That was my thing. Every time I ran into a kid who had some problems learning in school or felt a bit behind, I would always like spend hours trying to find the way that like each person can learn, because it's like we all have our own way of learning, and sometimes the school system kind of offers one way, and either it fits us or it doesn't, and then we're kind of on our own. And so what I loved was trying to find that one thing that helped so that the person could learn whatever we were learning in school, usually languages, because that was my big passion. And so I loved that, and it was like the psychology behind, because usually the children I would kind of help, they had problems at home, or like problems with their parents, or just other things that didn't have anything to do with school. So it always really fascinated me to see what was really going on behind that problem as well. which is kind of funny when I think of what I do now, because now I'm kind of working behind the scenes, I guess, of what's really going on for people when they experience blocks or they have a hard time doing what they really want to do or finding what they love. So I kind of feel like I've always been doing what I do now, just in a different way. So those are my passions, like really teaching and communications in any kind and languages. And so I as soon as I finished school, I went traveling and I lived in different countries, and I was always fascinated by people and how we work, what makes us tick, and what inspires us, and what makes us feel passionate about things, and what do we truly desire in life. And so I did quite a lot of different jobs. I worked in like marketing and communications, like managing international teams and things like that. And then I started channeling actually about 14 years ago, because I'd always been pretty interested in spirituality and personal development. But I hadn't actually started experimenting. I was just reading a ton of books, and I would meet people who were into it. And I think for a lot of people, that's how it starts. And then I met someone on a journey, and she said, well, I took a workshop in channeling, and maybe that would be something for you. And I remember that moment because I was thinking, oh, that's exactly what I want to do. And at the time, not that many people really knew what channeling was all about. And even now, it's not super common. And so I took this workshop, and that was like a big, huge eye-opener for me. And I knew that was what I wanted to do. And especially I wanted to teach other people how to channel and how to listen to their own intuition and connect with their spirit guides. Because I love teaching, and I love interacting with people, and I love helping them find whatever they're looking for. But I really enjoy that moment when someone sees that in themselves, when they see that the guidance is inside them, when they see that, oh, actually everything I'm looking for, it's already here. I don't have to read another book. I don't have to go to anyone else. It's here. And if I just stop and I don't listen to my mind chatter and I don't get busy with other people, then I can actually hear my own guidance. So it kind of started there, going kind of very fast forward to where I am today. But what I do today kind of feels like a mix of everything I've always loved that I kind of put into a package that is my life and my work today. So I only get to do what I enjoy the most and where I find that I'm the most helpful, and I get to connect with amazing people who are really, really willing to move forward in their lives, no matter where they are, because I don't think it matters so much where we are, as in like what are we willing to do to move forward.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to want it. You have to want to take the steps to move forward. Until you're ready and you're at that place, it won't happen, no matter how many self-help books you read or how many teleseminars you listen to. You really have to be at that place, and it's awesome that there are people like you out there to help guide those people, because it doesn't just happen.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you. Well, I feel really privileged. I think it's really an honor to be able to be in that place where someone says, okay, I need help with this, because I think like my clients, they just amaze me. I think they're so brave to actually come to someone and say, okay, I need help with this because I feel stuck. Usually they get with their mind why they're stuck, but it doesn't help us feel unstuck always. Like usually there's something that has to kind of happen inside, I think.
Yes, I agree. So you said that you took a workshop in channeling, so that just prompted a question in me, because I thought that typically, and probably a lot of people do, that this is something that most people are just born with, or that they just already know how to do and maybe hone in on it when they're older or something. But was this something that you kind of always did but didn't really realize you were doing it, and then you took a workshop to learn it, or is this something that everybody can learn to do?
That's a great question. And actually quite a few people tell me when they read my website, they go, oh, I'm so relieved because I thought everyone was kind of born with the gift and they knew from since they were really young, that this was their thing. And so I've been trying to think back what it was like for me, but I guess if I try to remember what it was like or how I felt when I was younger, I usually had a really strong sense of what was really going on. Like if someone would say something, I would kind of sense what was really going on for them. Not as in like maybe flashes or like images of, you know, their past lives or anything like that, but more like I would sense if something was true or not and things like that. And I could usually sense really strongly how someone was feeling. And once in a while I'd have like a strong intuition about something, and I've always really listened to my own feelings and my own dreams or just desires. And I think the more we do these things, the more we practice and the stronger it becomes, because we make space for them. But I don't think I was more intuitive than any other kid, you know, my age, because kids are usually pretty intuitive.
Right.
So I think it's more about not forgetting about that, and not just listening to other people so we forget our own voice. But I don't think I was more intuitive than anyone else. And now, if I'm more intuitive now, I think it's really because I've practiced a lot. So I think there's maybe a sense of maybe an inner calling, because I do felt that way when I heard about channeling the first time. It felt like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And maybe not everyone feels that way, but I believe that everyone who wants to learn how to channel can do it. Especially now, because when I learned it, that was like 14 years ago, and I feel that things have changed quite a lot, and the energy has changed quite a lot, because I teach workshops in channeling as well, and everyone who's been at my workshop, like they all receive messages. Usually, what kind of stops people is that they don't trust that, because they think maybe it's going to sound in a different way, or you know, you have this. A big angel appears in front of you and has a very clear message, and you hear the bells and everything.
Right.
And most of the time, it doesn't quite come through like that. It's more like that soft voice saying something, and you go, no, that can't be right. That's my head. And then it comes back again. So I think it's more about listening and trusting. But I believe that everyone can do that.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's definitely a practicing thing that I've been trying to be mindful of more so in the past few years, to actually pay attention to, because I think everybody experiences that. You get that gut feeling that something isn't right, and you do it anyway, and then you realize, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that, you know? So to actually pay attention and acknowledge that you feel a certain way about something, and I think the more you practice that, the more you realize that everybody is very intuitive.
Yeah, exactly. It's that gut feeling, and we all have that. And some people are really practical about it. Maybe they don't say, "Oh, I have great intuition," but they have a really good gut feeling, and they listen to it. Because I'm sure we all have that, but because it's not a logical voice, and we've been trained not to listen to our intuition. And that, because usually it's the kind of voice that pops up when you're thinking of something else, and it doesn't make any sense usually, and so you're trying to get it, but I don't think we can actually get an intuition. It's like an urge, and when you go for it, then that's when you find out that, oh, okay, I get it now, but it doesn't always, often it doesn't make sense when you're receiving it. So yeah, having the courage to really listen to that and to honor your own voice as well, instead of listening to the logical voice or someone else's voice or your mother's voice in your head, or there's other people in there.
That's right. I know sometimes I'll think, and sometimes you don't know if it's going to be your intuition or not, but if you listen to it and you just, like for instance, sometimes I'll say something as simple as, don't put that cup of coffee there, and I've done it before where I've put the cup of coffee there and I end up spilling it. So now if that pops into my head real fast or something, I'll put it somewhere else. So you don't necessarily know if what you've listened to is proof of your intuition because you've actually listened to it, so you don't get the bad result of not listening to it. But I think it's important to do it because you actually pay attention more and you see more evidence of of it showing up in your life.
Yeah, and sometimes it's really small things. It can be tiny things, and sometimes it's like a bigger stuff. So I think the more we practice on the small things, then the more it kind of builds up, and then we can receive it more. And I think a lot of it comes down to asking, because I know when I'm in a kind of I don't like driving very much, and it kind of freaks me out. So if there are a lot of cars around me, I tend to be a bit like, okay, how am I going to do this? Like shallow breathing, and that's usually when I go, okay, my spirit guides, I have to take the car. I'm starting to freak out. Can you please help me so that I get smoothly to wherever I'm going? And it's amazing, because sometimes it's like if I don't know exactly where I'm going and I'm following the signs and there are no signs for a while, and I go, okay, I need a sign really soon or I'm going to freak out. And then bam, the next intersection or the next corner, there's going to be a sign. And so then sometimes it's also asking for what we need, because spirit is really helpful, but it doesn't come in and do stuff unless we ask. So I think sometimes it's also about asking for what we really need is a key thing.
That's a good tip, because often I think people just wish, but I don't think wishing is the same as acting or asking. I think you have to be more direct, and more probably direct in what form, maybe. Do you think that is true at all? In what form? Because like I want a billboard to say, as a sign. I want like a big, like unmistakable sign on something, and that really never happens. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I think there are probably a few steps to maybe follow, and it depends on. I think we have to be aligned with what we're asking for. So if you're like asking for something that's really far from what you're experiencing inside you and what's going on in your life, it's going to be trickier to kind of bring that in, I think. But like, for example, when I feel scared and I feel like, okay, I really want that billboard, that unmistakable sign, not some kind of subtle thing, but really, really obvious. Well, in that moment, I think because my intention is really, really clear, and I'm bringing in all my energy because I'm kind of desperate. And so I think there's a sense of really bringing all the energy in, being really clear, and it is a useful thing in that moment. It's not something I'm kind of daydreaming about for maybe later, and being very specific. And I think at that moment, it's like I bring it all together, and that's when it can happen. And that's happened a lot for me, where I've asked for something that's unmistakable, and it's almost been like hilarious how big it has been, like when it received. Yeah. So I think it's good to be really clear about how sometimes we don't. I think the wish or what we're asking for has to be clear, but maybe the how it's going to come into our life, that we can leave that to spirit or whatever we call it.
Because I think they know better than us. They have a 360 view. We're in this little tunnel, so I don't think we should determine exactly how whatever we're wishing for is going to happen, but more of the end result that we would like and how we want to feel about that, and then just open it up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the surrendering, because I really believe in asking clearly what we want, and coming from a really like a true place within what we truly think would be good for us, not just like a wish of maybe that would be good because that's what my neighbor has or that looks good. And then it's surrendering to how that's going to come into our lives, and sometimes when it's going to come into our lives as well, because the timing, even when we say, okay, I want this now, if it's not coming now, maybe we're not truly ready for it. Because sometimes we think we want something, but in reality we're not quite ready to fully receive it yet. So trusting that things come at the right time as well.
Yes, I agree. I've had evidence of that before too.
Yeah.
So talk to me about perhaps, I know most people feel this way, but has there been a time when you felt afraid or doubtful about your career, what you're doing now, or even like throwing in the towel and ditching the dream about what you're passionate about? And if that has happened to you, how did you get through that or past that point?
That's an awesome question, and that's happened quite a few times. And I know it's always good to hear that from other people, because I often tend to think that maybe other people don't feel this way, or not the way I do. And especially when we see really successful people, or people seem to have it, who seem to have it all together, like those people.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, that's happened. Well, the thing is, when I started my business, because it took me like 10 years of knowing I wanted to channel and I wanted to teach people how to channel. It still took me 10 years until I actually started my business. Like, I would channel for friends and friends and random people on the internet, and I practiced a lot in those 10 years, but I was always waiting for the right time, and maybe I should have kids first, and then my kids were really young, and then, excuses, like all sorts of excuses. Give me time to practice, and that was good. And it's always good to have more like life experience for this stuff, but I was still kind of stalling, I guess, and being fearful about, how was I going to do this? Seemed impossible to start my own business. I didn't know how that worked or anything. And then at one point it was like, okay, you have to start now, or you're never going to do it. And so I kind of jumped. And from that moment, I felt really called, like I felt really carried by that desire to do what I feel like I'm here to do. And so I didn't have a lot of doubts for almost the whole first year. And things were going pretty well, and I connected with amazing people, and yeah, a lot of things happened. And I had lots of new clients, and it was pretty good. And the excitement of starting something new that can feel really that kind of keeps us going too. Right. And then there was somewhere, this was in 2012, and then in November things started slowing down, and I had a few clients here and there, and I thought, okay, first I thought, well, that's normal, and it's my first year in business. And I thought, well, maybe it doesn't get any better than this, and then I kind of spiraled down into, well, maybe I'm just one of those people who has a dream and it doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of took that in. Okay, what if this doesn't work out? What if I feel really called to do this, but it's just not going to happen, like financially and practically, and like the whole physical aspect of it. And then I just kind of let that sink in. And when I did, something really beautiful happened. And that was the moment when I realized that it didn't matter if this was what I was going to do for my living. It didn't matter if I could make a salary out of it. Didn't matter if I was successful in my work, because I knew that I would always be channeling in some way, and that I'm here to like feel love and radiate love and spread it to as many people as possible. And if I do that by having an online business and channeling, or if I do that by working at a supermarket, it really doesn't matter, because what matters is how I do this, and that I do it, and that I do it with all of my heart, and that when I do this, people feel like something is lighting up inside them, and that is why I do this. And so when I realized this, it's like all the pressure kind of melted off, and I thought, well, it doesn't matter. And it was so interesting when I had that moment, because it was right before the Christmas holidays, and then I went away with my family for like 10 days, didn't check my email much, and then I got back, and someone had sent in a request for a reading, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe this is a sign. And then one person that I really love, who's been a client for a few years now, she did a big shout out on social media, and my inbox just went boom. And I had so many requests, and then I was super busy for like 2 or 3 months at the beginning of the following year. And I thought, okay, so this is a sign, right? I have to keep doing this. Right. And it was really wonderful, because it kind of really brought me back into, this is why I do what I do. It's not about because it's so easy to get caught up in having to make enough money to feed your family, growing your list, getting into the technical marketing aspects. And it kind of brings us away from our center and from the core of why we do this, right?
Right. That's beautiful. That gives me chills. It gave me chills.
It was really one of those big moments where I thought, okay, make it or break it.
Yeah. Well, and that I think that you came to that place, and then it allowed the universe to like open it up.
Mm-hmm.
that's how it feels anyway, how you're saying it. That's a beautiful story. And I think that's important for people to, that's kind of why I wanted to share things like this, so that people realize that everybody goes through these moments of doubt, and that it, like you said, it can be okay, and you come to the terms that you're still going to do this no matter what, and then it opened up for you. So that's a beautiful story.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it really is important to, and I think this is part of the journey, because whenever we put ourselves out there in that way and we do something that we really care about, because when I was working in an office and I did work that I cared about, but not in this way, nothing as personal, I didn't get as emotionally involved. Like asking for a raise was fine, and like doing my work. And now that I do my own work, brings up all my stuff. Like for same thing for a lot of people, I think. It's like, because now it's something that's really, really close to me. So I want it to work, and it's, it's really triggering, well, any sense of not feeling worthy, or who am I to be doing this, and all that stuff, which is why it's so fascinating and exciting to have your own business and do what we love doing, because it's like a way of deepening that practice. And as we teach others, we learn as well. Like that's what they say, don't they? Like what we teach, what we need to learn the most, and that's certainly been true for me. And every time I go through something new in my life, it's like my clients are kind of mirroring that back to me. So it's wonderful. It's a great way to learn and to deepen our practice, and to have more faith in ourselves and faith in life, that it carries us through all of that, and letting go when we can't do anything more. And and I think that's truly when those miraculous moments happen.
Yeah, I agree. So I know you've shared some tips already, but do you have one favorite tip or strategy that you personally use that you'd like to share with people who are watching this series to incorporate what they're passionate about into their life?
How to incorporate what they're passionate about. But sometimes, well, it depends on where people are. Because if it's for someone who doesn't know exactly what they're passionate about, or someone who's passionate about a lot of things and doesn't really know where to start, then I suggest kind of start digging where you are, and maybe do like a big drawing or something of everything that you love. And it can be like being joyful, it can be a feeling, it can be an activity, it can be something you do with others, anything. Just put everything down on paper, and then see what you keep repeating. Because usually there are a few things that always come up. And no matter what job you do, those are the key things that come up. Or ask yourself, okay, what do I do all the time? What comes really naturally to me? Because usually our thing, or like our life's purpose, is what we do so naturally that we don't even think it's a skill. Like, what do people come to us for? What do people always ask me about? What do I always end up doing in every job, or in every gathering with other people? So usually it's right there. It's just we can't see it. Or you ask friends, like, what do you think my best quality is, or what do you think I'm good at? And usually there are a few things that come up. And so if you've done this first, or you already know what it is that you're passionate about, well, I would say just take a moment and really connect with the desire of that. Like you close your eyes, you get really quiet, and then you feel that passion inside you, that activity or that creation or whatever it is that you long for. And then you ask yourself, what is the first step I can take to bring me closer to that? Because usually it feels like where we are now and where we want to be, it's a huge step. We can't even imagine being there. We don't even know what we need to do or be in order to be there. So first step. And then you take that step and then you celebrate, because there's always going to be more. So be sure to celebrate where you are and the step you've taken, and then ask for the next step and the next step. And I always encourage people to go within to ask. Because if you just think about it with your head, you're going to have a full list of stuff to do. And it may not be, you know, the most important things. It could be like random stuff that you're about online, or, you know, it's probably going to be about much more, and probably not as focused as when you ask within. And then you take it one step at a time. And it helps us from not getting too overwhelmed, because there's always more, and so just taking that one step and being really focused on that one step.
That is perfect advice. I totally agree with that. It's very important to do that step by step and not expect everything to come at one time.
Yeah, because there's so much we can do, right? Especially when we first start out, it just seems like a huge mountain to climb. So one step kind of keeps us focused, and a lot of things happen when we do that too, because it's like that one step every day for a while takes us to where we want to be.
Absolutely. And so I know you have a free gift for people who are watching this series, so that we don't, you know, run into an hour of time, because I think we could.
Yeah.
Because I could go on with this conversation forever. We might have to have a part 2. But would you share with everybody what you're offering for your free gift?
Yes, I would love to, because I find that sometimes we want things and we dream of things, but I feel that the number one step for me and for a lot of my clients has been to actually release what we're carrying. And so that releasing can be ideas we have about ourselves, ways in which we limit ourselves, old stories that we need to let go of, sometimes physical stuff, sometimes energetic stuff, so that we actually make space so we can embrace what we're asking for. Because, you know, we ask, but there's no space for it. It's like a big house, and you stuff it with things, and then you go, okay, I want a new couch. Right. So first we have to clear out so there's space for that new couch, and then we can bring it in. And so my free gift is a guided meditation, because this comes up a lot. And so I thought, hey, I'll make a guided meditation doing this. So it's called Release, Ground Yourself, and Create Loving Boundaries. So it's the releasing part to make space for what you want, and then ground yourself so that you don't float off and you don't dream too much, but you're like really here, so you can actually receive what's coming, and you can be really present. And then loving boundaries, because then you stay clear and strong in your own energy, and you don't start picking up on what's going on around you. And I know that's especially true for us women who are multitasking and taking care of a lot of people. And for a lot of us, we tend to spend a lot more time in other people and in other people's stories and stuff than we do in ourselves. So I think number one is to clear our own energy, create boundaries so that we can be really independent and strong in that, so that we can be much more helpful for other people, because we're clear with who we are and why we're here, and we're not getting triggered by their stuff and getting involved in what does not belong to us. So that's my guided meditation. It's about 24 minutes long, and I suggest you listen to it as often as you can. I do like a mini version of this every day to clear my energy, usually a few times a day. So it's really easy, and it's a great way to get clear, so you can hear that voice inside you.
Yes, awesome, awesome. And everybody can find the link to Karina's free gift in the Passion Base on my website at cheriseboucher.com/thepassionbase. And if you signed up for this newsletter, I'm sorry, can you hear that? That's connecting. Sorry. You can sign up for the newsletter for updates to the InspireViews series. And if you have already, you have access to this. And if you've not done that, please do. And you can do that at cheriseboucher.com/inspireviews. And on the Passion Base page is where you'll find links to all the interviews and to the free gifts and more information about each of the guests who have joined me in this awesome series. So I want to thank you so much, Karina, for sharing your story, because it's beautiful and inspirational. And I hope that everybody jumps in and does this meditation because it sounds hugely beneficial. And I'm sure that probably, like you said, you do a mini version of it a few times a day, that once they listen to it a few times, it probably stays in your head so that you can take yourself through that.
Yeah, it's really easy to use. I tend to go for like easy tools. They're easy to integrate in a busy life because otherwise we just don't do them. So yeah, thank you. It's been really lovely chatting with you, Cherrise, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Watch your inbox for details on the next Inspire View. Have a great day.